Oh dear people, there is a sweetness in the presence right now, can you feel it? A hush, a holy hush, it's not emotion. No, 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 it's deeper than that. It is glory. It's the kind of presence that fills a room and makes you whisper without even realizing why. The kind that causes tears to fall without effort, because something, or should I say, someone has entered. And when that happens, all you want to do is sit in awe. There is a divine hush that precedes every holy encounter. It is not silence as the world knows it, but a stillness that invites glory. A stillness that opens the door for something heavenly to step into the earthly. And if you have ever wondered how to begin, how to speak to the one your soul longs for, then begin here in stillness. You don't prepare your words first. You don't practice what to say. You don't rehearse your prayer like a performance. You simply quiet everything else. You still the noise, you still your body, you still your soul. You make room. Not just in your schedule, not just in a room with dim lights and soft music, but in your very being. You make room for something that cannot be forced, only welcomed. I can remember those early days when I knew so little but longed for so much. I would sit on the floor with nothing but expectation. And oh, how heaven would come. Not always loud, not always with signs, but always real, always near. The stillness was never empty, it was full of the invisible, full of the sacred. It was in that quiet place that I learned the difference between noise and nearness. Stillness is not a technique. It is a surrender. It is the first act of love. It says, you are worth waiting for. You are worth more than my distractions. In stillness, you lay aside your lists and your needs and your plans. You lay aside the frantic pace of life and you say, here I am, and it is enough. This world moves fast. Everything demands your attention. You are pulled in 100 directions every single day. But when you choose to sit quietly, not to get something, but simply to be present, you begin to hear a sound deeper than words. You begin to sense something sacred entering the ordinary. That is the beginning of communion. You see, you cannot rush sacred things. You cannot microwave glory. The divine does not come at the snap of your fingers. It comes to the yielded. It comes to the waiting. It comes to the childlike. And when you learn to still your soul, even if just for a few moments, you are saying with your actions, I am ready. Ready not for a feeling, not for a sensation, but for presence. Stillness is not always easy. Your mind will wander. Your thoughts will race. You will remember 1,000 things you meant to do. But do not be discouraged. Return to the quiet. Return to the breath. Return to the awareness that you are not alone. The atmosphere will shift little by little. The clutter will clear. And before you know it, your inner world will make space for the eternal. This is how it begins. This is how every conversation with the unseen starts. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with activity, but with waiting. You will discover that in stillness, there is recognition. Your heart will begin to recognize something ancient, something holy. You won't be able to explain it, but you'll know. You'll know you are not just sitting in a room, you are in a sanctuary. And once that stillness becomes familiar, once it becomes a place you return to daily, something beautiful happens. You become more aware. You notice the whispers. You feel the weight of glory even when nothing is said. You find yourself talking, not with your mouth but with your spirit. Because once stillness is established, the conversation begins. When you come into that sacred place, after the stillness has settled into your soul and the atmosphere has quieted the clamor of the world, there is something deeper that begins to rise within you. And this is where the conversation truly begins. Not with rehearsed lines or polished phrases, not with what you think you should say, but with what is real, what is raw, what is true. You speak from the heart, not the head. The mind tries to impress. The heart just expresses. The mind calculates and reasons. The heart yields and trusts. You don't need to be eloquent. You don't need perfect grammar or spiritual vocabulary. You don't need to sound like anyone else. This is not a performance. This is a relationship. And every true relationship begins with honesty. There are no masks in that holy presence. There is no pretending. You don't have to come cleaned up or put together. You can come in fragments. You can come weary, you can come confused. But come with your heart. The deepest communication you will ever have doesn't come from thinking the right things. It comes from feeling them, from being them. You speak with who you are, not just with what you say. Sometimes you may want to pour out your love. Sometimes you may only have a whisper. Sometimes you may sit in silence and weep. And it's all prayer. It's all communication. Because when the heart speaks, heaven listens. There is such a temptation to come with formality, to try and say what sounds spiritual. But beloved, the divine doesn't respond to performance. The response comes to truth, to sincerity, to vulnerability. There is nothing you could say from your mind that will ever touch heaven the way a single word from your heart can. even if it's just one word, help, please, stay. Those are sacred words when they come from the depths. Do not try to impress. Do not try to mimic. Do not try to measure up to someone else's way of praying or speaking. Your voice, your true voice is all that is required. Speak as a child speaks to their dearest friend, with trust, with simplicity, with love. The heart doesn't always speak in long speeches. Sometimes it's a sigh. Sometimes it's a groan that cannot be put into words. But oh, how powerful those groans are in the presence. They rise like incense. They carry a fragrance that the intellect could never offer. That's why the greatest prayers often have no structure. They are not petitions, they are not outlines, they are simply love pouring out. You can be honest. You can say, I don't understand. You can say, I'm afraid. You can say, I'm tired. There is no condemnation in the presence of love. There is only welcome. There is only embrace. And when your heart speaks, there is a response, not always with words, but with peace, with nearness, with knowing that you are heard. Sometimes your head will tell you that nothing is happening, that you're not doing it right, that your words are too weak, too small, too broken. But ignore that voice. Let your heart continue. Let it speak in its own way. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be long. It only needs to be real. The most beautiful conversations you will ever have will happen when you stop trying to be spiritual and start being sincere. When you stop trying to say the right thing and start letting your heart be the right thing. Open, honest, yielded, and full of love. There is a beauty in simplicity that the heart understands far better than the mind ever could. When the presence comes near, when the atmosphere shifts and your soul becomes aware of the divine nearness, the temptation often is to speak much, to pour out words in long streams, to say everything at once. But oh, how unnecessary that is. You do not need to speak many words. In fact, the fewer the words, the deeper they often go. In that sacred place, love does the talking. There are moments when just a whisper carries more weight than 1,000 sentences. A whisper from a heart full of adoration, full of longing, full of surrender. That's the language that is recognized. That's the voice that is received. It is not the strength of your vocabulary, but the sincerity of your affection that opens heaven's ears. Love speaks softly. Love doesn't have to shout. Love doesn't have to explain itself. It just is. And when you enter into that holy place of conversation, let love be your voice. Let it rise from the quiet places of your spirit, not rushed, not forced, but like incense, gentle and fragrant and real. You don't have to fill the silence. The silence is sacred. The stillness is full. Sometimes love says nothing at all but stays. Sometimes love waits. Sometimes it is only your presence that speaks, the lifting of your hands, the tears on your cheeks, the sigh from your chest. These are not empty gestures. They are holy expressions. They are language more eloquent than any prayer you could ever construct with your intellect. Some of the deepest moments you will ever experience in the presence will be moments when very little is said. A single phrase, repeated from the core of your being, can carry more power than pages of prayer. I love you. You are welcome. Don't leave me. These are simple words, but when they are soaked in love, they touch eternity. The holy draws near to hearts that are yielded, not performances that are perfected. You don't have to say the right thing. You don't have to worry if your words are enough. When love speaks, it never misses the mark. It is always received. It is always understood. Let your words be few. Let your words be slow. Let them come from a place of nearness. There is no need to convince. No need to strive, no need to explain. Just love. Speak as a lover speaks, not trying to persuade, only to be close. Love speaks in silence. It speaks in stillness. It speaks in looks, in gestures, in long pauses filled with meaning. That is the kind of speech heaven understands. Sometimes the most powerful part of your prayer will be the moment you stop talking and just gaze inward. The moment your words give way to communion. The moment your soul says, you are enough, without ever making a sound. There in that quiet, love begins to flow like a river. Let every phrase be soaked in meaning. Let your words be born from the deep well of devotion. Don't rush, don't try to impress. Speak as one who has been found. Speak as one who knows they are being listened to. Speak as one who is in love. When you come into that place of divine closeness, don't bring many words. Bring your heart. Bring your affection. Bring your stillness. And let your few words be drenched in wonder, in awe, in the simple, overwhelming truth that you are in the presence of perfect love. There is a rhythm to communion, and it is not always found in your speaking. True intimacy begins when you stop filling the silence and start listening. Listening more than you speak is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is reverence. It is the recognition that what you are in the presence of is far more holy, far more wise, far more beautiful than anything you could offer with your voice alone. You see, when you love someone deeply, you don't always talk. You listen. You lean in, you hang on every word, every movement, every pause. And in the holy place of divine nearness, there is so much being spoken that cannot be heard with natural ears. There are whispers of comfort, whispers of correction, whispers of deep, eternal love that reach into the places no human voice can touch. But you must be quiet to hear them. This world trains you to talk. It rewards noise. It applauds performance. But heaven is drawn to humility, to silence, to those who wait before they speak. The sacred is not in the noise. It is in the pause. It is in the breath between your sentences, where your spirit leans in and says, "Speak, and I will listen." Listening is not something you do with your ears alone. You listen with your spirit. You listen with attention. You listen with desire. When you come into that holy atmosphere, don't be quick to pour out words. Begin with a listening posture. Sit quietly. Let your soul be still and aware. You may not hear a voice, but you will sense something shift. The atmosphere changes when your heart becomes attentive. There are things you will only understand when you stop talking. There are revelations that will never come through your own asking, but only through silent receiving. Some of the greatest treasures are given to those who are not in a hurry to be heard but are hungry to hear. This is not about silence for silence's sake. It is about sensitivity. It is about the kind of attention that says, "You matter more than my words. You matter more than my plans." And in that listening, there is transformation. The quiet places become the birthing ground of miracles, not always external ones, but the inward ones. The kind that change how you think, how you love, how you live. Listening molds you. It shapes your responses. It softens your heart. It gives you wisdom beyond your years. And it tunes your ear to the voice that leads you in ways you could never lead yourself. There is a kind of listening that becomes worship. It says, "I trust you so much that I don't need to talk. I just need to be near you." That kind of listening becomes your offering. It becomes your posture of love. And it invites a depth of intimacy that cannot be reached through constant speaking. You may think you must fill the time with words to be faithful, but presence is not measured by speech. It is measured by attention. The most faithful thing you can do is to sit, to wait, to listen, and to be fully there. That is how relationships grow. That is how love deepens. And in that posture, you will begin to recognize the still, small impressions, the gentle nudges, the words that are not spoken aloud but echo deep within your soul. When you listen more than you speak, your spirit learns the sound of the divine. It becomes familiar. It becomes recognizable. Over time, you will find that your ears are tuned not just in quiet rooms but even in noisy streets, even in busy days. Because once you have learned to listen in the stillness, you carry that sensitivity with you. You become one who walks in constant awareness. You begin to live your life from a listening place. When you come into the presence of the sacred, you do not come to instruct. You do not come to direct. You come to invite. You come to yield. There is a gentle surrender in this kind of communion. It is not about taking control, not about telling the divine what to do, not about offering demands cloaked in spiritual words. It is about laying yourself low, opening your hands, and saying with every breath, "Have your way." You cannot force the sacred. You cannot command it to appear. You cannot create the presence through effort or emotion. This is not something you earn or manufacture. It is a gift, a holy invitation into something far beyond your understanding. And the only way to truly enter is by yielding. Yielding your thoughts, yielding your plans, yielding your desire to lead the moment, yielding even your understanding of what should happen. The soul that invites is the soul that receives. Not the loudest one, not the most desperate, but the one who opens the door with reverence and says, "You are welcome." And that welcome does not come from words alone. It comes from posture. It comes from the way your spirit bows before glory, the way your heart opens without resistance, the way your will steps aside. Striving is the language of fear. It is the effort to make something happen when trust is not yet present. But in the holy place, striving is replaced with stillness. The moment you begin to invite rather than instruct, something begins to shift. The atmosphere softens, the weight of presence increases. It is as though heaven leans in, waiting for a heart that is done trying and ready to receive. There is no need to perform. There is no need to make anything happen. Just invite. Just yield. It is not weakness to release control. It is wisdom. For what you long for cannot be built by human effort. It comes in response to invitation. The divine moves freely where it is trusted, where it is honored, where it is not contained by expectation but welcomed in love. Sometimes you will come with many thoughts, with plans for what the time should look like. Let those go. Lay down your agendas. Lay down your expectations. Say instead, "Let me." Say whatever you desire. These are not just words, they are doorways. when spoken with sincerity, they open your heart to something greater than your imagination, something richer than anything you could construct on your own. Yielding is not a single act. It is a continual posture. You yield at the beginning, and then you yield again when things feel unfamiliar. You yield when you feel nothing. You yield when your emotions try to take over. You yield when your mind wants to dominate the moment. And in that continual yielding, you stay soft. You stay open. You stay aware. There is a deep peace that comes when you stop striving, when you stop reaching and start receiving, when your soul stops clenching and starts unfolding. In that place, the presence begins to settle like dew, not rushed, not loud, but undeniably real. It comes quietly, and it fills everything, but only when it is invited, only when it is not instructed or controlled. So let your prayer be less of a speech and more of an open door. Let your heart become a place where heaven feels at home. Let your desire be not to lead the moment, but to follow where it flows. And in that surrender, in that holy yielding, you will find what no amount of striving could ever bring. There is a fragrance to the sacred, a weight to the holy, and when you become aware of it, your very breath changes. The room no longer feels ordinary. The space becomes a sanctuary. You begin to tread softly, speak gently, move slowly, not out of fear, but out of reverence. This is what it means to honor the atmosphere, to recognize when something divine begins to move, and to protect that moment with every part of your being. The holy is not loud. It does not fight for attention. It does not demand your focus. It comes as a whisper, a breath, a gentle presence so easy to overlook if you are careless, distracted, or flippant. That is why you must learn to honor the atmosphere, to treat it as precious, to guard it as you would guard something rare and fragile. There are moments when you feel it, a stillness that isn't just quiet, a peace that seems to settle like a covering, a sense of presence that words cannot capture. In those moments, stop everything. Do not rush. Do not press forward. Do not try to make something happen. Just recognize it, bow to it, give it room to grow. So often the mistake is to keep talking, to keep singing, to keep doing. But the most powerful moments are the ones where you do less, not more. Where you become aware that something other is near, and your only response is wonder. When that atmosphere comes, the only appropriate posture is surrender. The only appropriate response is reverence. Honor is not just what you do outwardly. It's what your spirit does inwardly. It's the attitude of your heart, the tone of your soul. It's when your entire being says, this is holy ground. It doesn't require grand gestures. It doesn't require eloquent words. It requires awareness. Awareness that what is happening is not natural. Awareness that you are not alone in that room. The atmosphere can be grieved. It can be disturbed. It can lift just as quickly as it came if it is not treated with care. That's why the posture of your heart matters. That's why you do not bring casual conversation into sacred space. You don't gossip in a cathedral. You don't laugh carelessly in a holy moment. You don't fill the silence with noise just to avoid discomfort. You wait. You listen. You respond with love. Reverence invites more. The more you honor the atmosphere, the more sensitive you become. Your spirit begins to discern the slightest shifts. You begin to feel the subtle weight of glory that others miss. You begin to notice the soft movements that pass by those who are too busy or too loud to see them. And in that awareness, deeper encounters are reality. It is not about rituals or rules. It is about love. Love always honors. Love always listens. Love always protects. When you love the presence, you protect the atmosphere. You do not allow the trivial to invade the sacred. You do not allow the ordinary to trample on what is holy. And so you learn to pause, to silence the unnecessary, to turn off the distractions, to carry a posture of reverence not just in your quiet time but throughout your day. Your spirit remains tender, alert, sensitive to the divine whisper that could come at any moment. Because when you honor the atmosphere, you show that you value what cannot be bought, cannot be taught, cannot be earned. You value the sacred for what it is, holy, beautiful, beyond explanation. And that atmosphere is not confined to one place. It can rest in your home, in your car, in a simple room with nothing but a quiet heart. It can descend in a moment of prayer or linger after a song. But wherever it appears, honor it. Let your spirit bow. Let your heart respond. Let everything within you recognize that you are standing on ground that has been touched by heaven. There are moments in this walk where emotion will rise, and that emotion is not something to suppress or hide. It is often the very language of your spirit crying out in response to what cannot be explained. There are tears that come not from sorrow, but from awe. There are tremblings that come not from fear, but from the weight of glory pressing gently against your soul. This is how the sacred moves. It bypasses the intellect and reaches straight into the heart. To respond emotionally is not weakness. It is not immaturity. It is the soul saying, I feel you. It is the heart catching fire in the nearness of what is eternal. You are not trying to create emotion, but neither are you trying to resist it. When the presence comes close, something inside you knows, and the response may come in tears, or laughter, or a trembling, or a stillness that silences everything else. These are not merely reactions, they are reverent responses. You were not created to be cold in the presence of love. You were not designed to remain detached when the holy draws near. If the divine can be grieved, then surely the divine can also be touched. And if the presence is touching you, there should be some evidence. Not proof for others to see, but proof in the inner sanctuary of your being, that something is happening that words cannot contain. The danger is not in emotion. The danger is in becoming numb. When you begin to treat the holy as common, when you become so familiar that you lose the wonder, the awe, the trembling, that is where your soul starts to dry. But when you remain tender, when you let yourself be moved, when you give space for your heart to weep, to rejoice, to stand in silence or cry out in joy, then you are alive to what is real. You are alive to the presence. You don't need to manufacture a feeling. You don't need to chase after emotional experiences. You only need to be honest. If your heart is overwhelmed, let it be overwhelmed. If your spirit is stirred, let it be stirred. There is no shame in the sacred reaching deep into the core of who you are. There is no shame in breaking under love's weight. You are safe there. Some will say emotion is unreliable, but love is not void of feeling. Intimacy is not void of passion. True worship is not mechanical. It moves, it weeps, it dances. And when you respond with authenticity, you honor what is happening in the unseen. You say with your whole being, I am present. I recognize this. I receive this. Responding emotionally does not mean losing control. It means yielding control. It means letting the heart speak without shame. It means letting the body follow the spirit. It means not being afraid of the overflow. David danced, Mary wept, Isaiah trembled. These are not signs of weakness, these are signs of encounter. And even if no one else understands, even if your response looks different from theirs, don't hold back. This is not for their approval. This is not for performance. This is between you and the one who sees in secret. This is the response of one who has been touched. Let your tears be worship. Let your joy be worship. Let your silence be worship. Let your whole being become a living response. You don't have to explain it. You only have to be honest with it. The divine understands the language of the heart more than the language of the tongue. When you respond emotionally, you are not stepping out of order. You are stepping into the rhythm of a deeper reality. One where your spirit communes, your soul agrees, and your body simply follows. There is a sweetness in staying, a holiness in lingering that cannot be found in hurried moments. When the sacred nearness begins to wrap around you like a gentle wind, do not rush to leave. Do not be quick to move on. This is not the time to check the clock or return to routine. This is the moment to remain with wonder, to remain with stillness, to remain with a heart fully aware of what is happening in the unseen. So often the spirit brushes near, not with fanfare, not with thunder, but like soft rain falling on dry ground. And just when the soul begins to open, just when the presence begins to deepen, the mind grows restless. Distraction creeps in. Time becomes a master again. But you must resist the urge to pull away. You must learn to dwell, to sit at his feet, to remain in the stillness even when the world is calling you back into motion. Lingering is not a waste of time. Lingering is the doorway to encounter. It is in those extra moments, the moments when others have moved on, that something deeper is released. A whisper becomes clearer, a burden lifts, a healing begins. A fire is kindled that could not be lit in the rush. There are things that will never be given to those who only visit. They are reserved for those who remain. And when you linger, you begin to learn the rhythms of heaven. You begin to feel the rise and fall of the holy atmosphere. You notice when the nearness increases, when it settles, when it waits. You become acquainted with the flow that cannot be manipulated, only followed. This is not about method or formula. It is about relationship. It is about love. And love is never in a hurry. There is a cost to lingering. It will cost you time, convenience, control. But what you gain is greater than what you lose. You gain nearness. You gain awareness. You gain the kind of intimacy that marks you forever. This is where transformation happens. Not just in the first few minutes, but in the prolonged gaze, in the willingness to sit in silence with no agenda, in the joy of simply being together. Do not be afraid of the stillness. Do not fear the quiet. These are not empty moments. These are the spaces where the deepest work is done, where your spirit is shaped, where your heart is tenderized, where your thoughts are purified. The longer you stay, the more you become like the one you're near. That is the mystery of lingering. It changes you without effort. It transforms you without striving. Sometimes nothing will seem to be happening. You will not feel anything unusual. There will be no shaking, no tears, no stirring emotion, but remain anyway. Because love does not stay only when it feels good. Love stays because it is love. And your faithfulness in those moments speaks louder than any outward sign. You are saying, you are worth my time, you are worth my stillness, you are worth my whole attention. And sometimes, as you linger, a depth will open that you never expected. You will find yourself wrapped in a stillness so profound, so heavy with beauty that your soul becomes quiet in reverence. Words will fail, time will disappear, and you will know that you are exactly where you belong. That place is not earned, it is found in the staying. Let every distraction fall away. Let every plan be set aside. There is no rush here. There is only now. There is only this moment of being together. And the more you linger, the more you learn to carry that presence with you, not just in the quiet room, but in every part of your life. You become a dwelling place, a sanctuary, a resting place for the sacred, simply because you chose to remain. Oh, beloved, how precious it is to walk with the unseen, to know that what your heart has longed for is not far away, but so very near. This journey you've heard about, this tender way of talking, of listening, of inviting, yielding, honoring, and responding, it is not reserved for the few, it is not for the spiritually elite, it is for the hungry, for the humble, for the one who dares to believe that the presence of the divine is not only real, but personal, close, and longing to dwell with you. You don't need fancy words, you don't need to perform. All he asks is that you come with your whole heart, with reverence, with stillness, with longing, and in return he gives himself, not in part, not in shadow, but in the full sweetness of his nearness. And oh, when he comes, everything changes. He brings a joy the world cannot touch, a peace that passes all understanding, a love that wraps around your soul like holy fire. So talk to him, not with performance, but with love. Listen, not with your ears alone, but with the depth of your spirit. Invite him into every corner. Yield your will. Honor his nearness. Let your emotions respond without shame. And when the sacred comes, linger, stay, be still. This is where the miracle unfolds, not in the striving, but in the surrender, not in noise, but in the knowing. And the more you walk this way, the more natural it becomes. The more you recognize his breath in your silence, his whisper in your waiting, his touch in your tears, you will begin to live not from the outside in, but from the inside out, from a heart completely possessed by the one who made it. Let this be your life. Let this be your song. Not just a visit into the holy, but a dwelling place for the holy to live.